good afternoon, CTS266 section 840 students for the spring 2016 semester at Anne Arundel Community College. This is the CCNP Switch course, and this afternoon's video tutorial is going to be on Challenge Activity 6, where we're going to look to improve the Spanning Tree Protocol configuration for a customer. And this is out of the Cisco Learning Labs curriculum. And again, this is an absolutely fantastic lab. So let's go ahead and jump in here. So Dennis, the customer engineer, was pleased with your implementation of the rapid Spanning Tree Protocol. However, he read on the internet that Spanning Tree Protocol, while very reliable, can fail. So we're going to have to take a look at Dennis's configuration. So let's dig in here. And what I really like about this lab is this is a very, very realistic simulation of what you should run into, or what you might run into in the real world. So we're going to go ahead and let me quickly flip this over to Web Telnet here. I apologize. And then we're going to dive in here and take a look at, let's slide this up just a bit. And let's dive in. And first, let's take a look at switch 1. So again, we want to check all of the Spanning Tree toolkit features, right? So Loop Guard, BPDU Guard, Port Fast, BPDU Filter. So let's go from user exec to privilege exec, and let's just simply say, to start off, how about with a quick, how about a show Spanning Tree summary? All right, so what do we have here? Well, the switch is in rapid PVST mode. So if I were to say show run include mode, we should see Spanning Tree mode rapid PVST. Now, we've got some access ports here, right? So first things first, if I take a look at the diagram, let's tackle Port Fast and BPDU Guard and Root Guard right out of the gate. Because those three guys, BPDU Guard and Port Fast and Root Guard at the access layer are fantastic to team together on individual ports. So we're going to jump into switch 1 here. We're looking at Ethernet 00 and Ethernet 01 because those are where the PCs are plugged in. So let's take a look at that. If I were to say show run interface Ethernet 00, all right, and then how about Ethernet 01? And so what do we see right out of the gate? Well, we see that Dennis has got the proper configuration in terms of the switch port access VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. However, if we take a look here on these access ports, is there anything that you see here that kind of sticks out that you probably wouldn't put down at the access level? Exactly, the BPDU filter. So let's go ahead, let's go into global config. And again, we don't want to disable Spanning Tree on the port with BPDU filter, where we simply ignore any receive BPDUs and don't send any BPDUs. What we'd rather do is we want to go into interface Ethernet 00. We're going to say no Spanning Tree BPDU filter, whoops, enable. And so again, Cisco best practices are sorry, let's get this right. Spanning Tree, BPDU Guard enable, and then we want Spanning Tree Port Fast enabled, and we want Spanning Tree Guard root. Because again, on switch 1, do show span, you can see that I am not the root bridge. In fact, a better command would be do show Spanning Tree root. Right? So you can see my cost to get to the root bridge out all of my ports for all VLANs 1 through, well, 1, 10, 20, 30, and 40 is 100. So I am not the root bridge. In other words, if someone came along and had a switch, and let's say that this is switch 1, this whole black box here, if somebody plugged that switch into switch 1, and the priority on, let's say this is switch 9, and the bridge priority is 0, then we may have a new root bridge that we might not want as the root bridge. And therefore, we want to make sure that on any host-facing ports we have root guard, port fast, And BPDU Guard, in fact, BPDU Guard should catch within 2 seconds any BPDUs that are coming in from another switch and immediately air disable that port. So let's go ahead and take a look now. So if I say do show run interface Ethernet 00, there we go. Now that is a healthy looking port right there. Definitely configured to provide protection for Spanning Tree. Let's go into interface Ethernet 01, and we're going to say no Spanning Tree BPDU filter enable, and then we'll say Spanning Tree port fast. We're going to say Spanning Tree BPDU Guard, Guard enable, and then Spanning Tree Guard root. All right, so those two ports now do show run interface Ethernet 01 and 00. If you take a look, that is what we're looking for a host-facing port, right? So that looks really good from a host-facing port perspective. So now let's go ahead again. Let's stay at the access layer, right? Let's start down here at the access layer. Let's see what switch 2 might have configured for us. So we're going to go from user exec to privilege exec, and we'll say show Spanning Tree root. And again, you can see that with the root cost being 100, I am not the root bridge. So I already know that this switch is not the root bridge either. And again, at the access layer, it should not be the root bridge. In fact, a common practice is I always set the access layers to 61440. I typically set this guy to 0 and my secondary to 4096. And this again, per VLAN, right? Per VLAN. So this guarantees that DSW1 will be the root bridge for whichever VLANs I want him to be the root bridge for. And then DSW2, like if he was the secondary, 4096, and then this one would be 0. And let's say that we're talking about VLANs 1, 10, and 20 with the root bridge at DSW1, and then over here we would say 30 and 40 would see DSW2 as the root bridge. Again, this is the whole idea behind Cisco's Rapid Per VLAN Spanning Tree, RPVST, or RPVST Plus, right? If we're talking about 802.1q as opposed to ISL, right? Because we can manipulate things and perform layer 2 traffic engineering at layer 2 on a per VLAN basis. All right, so let's go ahead and squeegee that off and continue on here. We're on switch 2. So actually it was at 00. Yeah, 00 and 01 are the ports on the switch with the hosts connected. So show run interface Ethernet 00. Yeah, and we got much the same here. So let's go ahead and knock this out. We'll go into global config interface Ethernet 0, and actually we could do interface range Ethernet 00 to 01 and say no Spanning Tree BPDU filter enable. And now we're going to come back with Spanning Tree port fast. We're going to say Spanning Tree BPDU Guard enable. And then we're going to say Spanning Tree Guard root. All right, so now if we take a look at those ports, I say do show run int E00. Looking much better than it did before, and there we go. And that's what we want. Again, very critical if I were to say do show Spanning Tree Summary. If we are running rapid PVST mode here, right? Remember, it is critical that non-edge ports, right? I'm sorry, that edge ports, right, that you have the hosts connected to, that they have port fast on, because if they don't, what will happen is you'll have proposals. If there's an event, proposals will be sent out those ports, and then those hosts, those ports will be in a discarding state until the proposal process times out, waiting for the forward delay to time out, right? So, not good. Okay, let's take a look here. We'll stay on switch 1 and switch 2. Let's take a look at Ethernet 02 and 03. And let's see if there's anything particular about those ports. So do show run and Ethernet 02. So we've got well, I should have taken a look here. BPDU Guard default and port fast default are on. All right. But that's okay. We've enabled it at the port level. So what do we have? Ethernet 02 and 03 are pretty much just generic trunks, and so that looks good. Take a look at the rest of the config. All right, and then switch 2, we'll do a do show run, and let me guess, this has got the, yeah, they had port fast default and port fast BPDU Guard default on. So I didn't actually need to put those down at the interface level, but we did anyway, and that's okay. We get a chance to look at that on an individual port basis. And we added guard root, so that's definitely an extra layer of protection that you want to have. So yeah, so Ethernet 02 and 03, I don't see anything particular here for either of these that would need to be done. So let's do this. Okay, we'll take a look at DSW1 here. So we'll go from user exec into privilege exec, and let's start with a show run. See what we got going on here. So you can see we are running rapid spanning tree protocol, Cisco's version RPVST or RPVST Plus, and it looks like this is the root bridge for one. Oh wow! So when I drew that out prior to this, I had not looked at this, so that's interesting. So 1, 10, and 20. This is the root bridge for 1, 10, and 20, and it looks like the macro was used in order to set the priority, and then we're the secondary for 30 and 40. All right, so we've got port channels between the two switches. And again, no hosts plugged in, so I wouldn't expect to see BPDU Guard or port fast on. And let's see what else we've got here. However, and I see it on one of the ports, but I don't see it on the other. So remember, if I were to say show spanning tree root, right? So I am the root bridge for VLANs 1, 10, and 20. So I want to guard or protect my root status. So on DSW1, in order to do that, I would want to make sure that root guard is on that port and that port, as well as, let's see, are we going to put that on? No, we're not going to put it on there. We're going to do it on 2 and 3. Coming from Ethernet 03, yeah, so we would not put it on here. Yeah, so we would put it here because we want to make sure we protect the root bridge status of DSW1. So we're going to guard root on 2 and 3, and then over here we would do the same thing. We would guard root on 2 and then guard root on 3 to make sure that if superior BPDUs showed up, that would be put into a root inconsistent state. This port would basically block all traffic, right? And all 4 of these ports actually would block traffic if they were receiving superior BPDUs. Now, why would we not put it here? Well, the reason we wouldn't put it here is because we're, again, splitting the root bridge load with 1, 10, and 20 having the root bridge here, and 30 and 40 having the root bridge here. So we're going to go ahead, we would not put it on that link, and this is a layer 2 link. So let's go ahead and make that change. We'll do a quick squeegee, and we'll come to DSW1 first, and let's say show run, and again 02 and 03. So it's definitely on 02, but it is not on 03. So we're going to go into global config, interface Ethernet 03, and we would want to say spanning tree guard root. All right, so root guard has been enabled on port Ethernet 03. So let's save our config off. Back to the diagram here, and let's go to DSW2. We'll go from user exec to privilege exec, do a quick show run, and yep, exact same thing. Let's go into global config interface Ethernet 03, and we're going to say spanning tree guard root. And that is definitely going to help us. Now, that takes care of that. Let me do an in here and a write mem. All right, so if we go back, let me take a look here. So we've already dealt with port fast. BPDU Guard has been dealt with. We removed the BPDU filter. So now we're at, well, actually we did root guard as well. So now there may be something out there where we're looking for loop guard, right? So we want to check to see if loop guard is out there. And again, this document here, if you were to Google Cisco Spanning Tree Toolkit, you would find this PDF. And this is a fantastic PDF. And if you see here, loop guard prevents alternate or root port from becoming designated if, for whatever reason, BPDUs were to stop. And so you can see you would want loop guard between the distribution switches, right? Because again, what we're talking about here is it prevents an alternate or root port from becoming designated. So we would be looking for alternate ports or root ports on the switches, and that is where we would want to make the application. Now you can see down here it shows loop guard being enabled on these two ports because one of these ports will be a root port for specific VLANs, and then the other one is going to end up being blocking. And the same thing goes over here. You see the F and the B, forwarding, blocking, forwarding, blocking. But again, we would still want to make sure that we have root guard on those ports, especially down at the access layer. Between our distro, let me take a look at that and see, are we going to do that? Yeah, we may or may not do that. I don't believe we're going to do that. So we'll look at switch 1. So let's go to switch 1 and the two interfaces we're dealing with here. So switch 1's interfaces, right? Ethernet 02 and 03. What is the status of those guys? Do show spanning tree. Let's see what role they have. And as we expected, you have a root port at 2 and an alternate at 3, right? And then as we look down further, so it's alternate root, alternate root, alternate root. So what we're going to do is we're going to go, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into interface Ethernet 02, and we're going to say spanning tree guard loop. And then we would want to go into interface Ethernet 03 and say spanning tree guard loop. So we want to apply loop guard to the root and alternate ports that are facing upstream to make sure that in the absence of BPDUs, they don't try to transition to a designated role. All right, so that takes care of switch 2. Now let's go take a look at switch 3. Where are we at here? I'm sorry, not switch 3. Switch 1 we just did. So now we're going to do switch 2, and switch 2's ports are going to be the same, I assume, 2 and 3. So yep. So let's dive in here. We'll go to, go to global config. From privilege exec, we'll go to global config, say interface Ethernet 02, spanning tree guard loop, and then interface Ethernet 03, spanning tree guard loop. So that takes care of that. Now, again, like I said, you definitely want to enable loop guard between the distro switches as well. And so we're going to do that. And we'll do that on DSW01. Now, keep in mind, show ether channel summary. Show it wants the C in there. Ether channel. There we go. Summary. So keep in mind, we've got a port channel interface that we're dealing with here, right? Now, once the port channel has been configured, we don't go down to the member interfaces to make that change. We go to the port channel or PO1 interface, the logical interface that's representing the individually bundled physical links, and this is where we would say spanning tree guard loop, and then we're going to do the same thing for DSW2. I'll go to global config, interface, and actually is it PO1, do show ether channel summary. Yep, and it's PO1, so interface PO1, and this is where we would say, not SAP priority, but spanning tree guard loop, right? And it's interesting that this document actually points out the best practice, and that's actually what we would want to do, is we put it on the ether channel here on the port channel interfaces, and we place it down here on the upstream facing root and alternate ports that we have configured. Okay, so that touches on everything they list here. So let's take a look at our validation. What would we do? So we could take a look at the spanning tree interface detail to check and see. So let's do that. So on the distro layer switches, if I were to say do show spanning tree detail interface Ethernet 01, and actually I've got something extra in there. Let me double check this. Interface, oh, so spanning tree interface, had it backwards. So do show spanning tree interface Ethernet 01 detail. And there we go. And it gives us a quick synopsis for this specific port in question. We've got a shared link type, right? So it's half duplex. It's 10 megabits a second. That's why it's Ethernet, not FA. The port is in port fast mode. BPDU Guard is enabled. Root Guard is enabled. And you can see the number of BPDUs sent and the number of BPDUs received, right? And we can do this on a per port basis. So if we come back over here and then scroll down, all right, so we would want to take a look here. Yeah, so BPDU Guard is going to be at the edge of the network where we don't anticipate BPDUs showing up. So Root Guard we enabled, we did that. We did enable Loop Guard. We got it on the right interfaces as well as that port channel interface. So we did that, and those are all best practices. And remember, you would never have BPDU Filter and BPDU Guard on the same port because BPDU Filter overrides BPDU Guard. Okay, well, that was a great exercise to take a look at literally almost every tool in the Spanning Tree Toolkit for rapid spanning tree. Now remember, this is very important. The two Spanning Tree tools, Uplink Fast and Backbone Fast. And I love from a marketing perspective how they put fast in everything. Uplink Fast, Backbone Fast, Port Fast. So these were originally part of the PVST Plus suite. But when Cisco transitioned to the Rapid Spanning Tree Protocol and went to RPVST and RPVST Plus, this functionality is already incorporated, right? So there is no Uplink Fast and there is no Backbone Fast, right? They don't exist with Rapid Spanning Tree because their functionality, because of that proposal agreement synchronization process that takes place, their functionality has been included into the Rapid Spanning Tree Protocol standard, and included because of these innovations by Cisco, that when it came time to do the Rapid Spanning Tree Protocol, that functionality was included in the IEEE standard. Again, remember that Rapid Spanning Tree Protocol, that is the IEEE, right? So RSTP, that is the IEEE standard. RPVST and RPVST Plus, these are the Cisco, secret sauce additions to the basic standard. And Cisco came out with RPVST and RPVST Plus, which are all proprietary, right? RSTP is your open IEEE standard. RPVST, RPVST Plus, these are Cisco proprietary. All right, well, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow night.